What if the man who vowed to love and protect you was the one stirring poison into your morning coffee? Austin, Texas. A Sunday morning like no other. I sat at Miranda's polished oak dining table, sunlight filtering through the wide windows of her vintage brick home in Travis Heights. The air was filled with laughter, cinnamon waffles, and fresh fruit. Everything seemed perfect, but my gut was screaming something else entirely. "Don't you want to try the special coffee I made just for you, Olivia?" Ryan asked, flashing a smile that didn't quite touch his eyes. In front of me sat a pristine white mug, steam curling upward from a dark brew, but the aroma, it wasn't right. There was a metallic undertone, faint but unmistakable. My stomach clenched. Across the table, Miranda stirred her untouched cup with casual grace, but her eyes never left me. Watching. Calculating. "Ryan's been obsessed with brewing lately," she said with a smirk. "Trying all kinds of techniques, just for you." Her words sent a shiver down my spine. I smiled politely, but inside, alarms were blaring. I'd been down this road before. Mysterious illnesses after brunch, unexplained ER visits, always following meals at this house. 3 years of marriage, and I'd started to see the pattern. I lifted the mug, pretending to sip. Then came my move. I stumbled into the edge of the table, sending the tray of waffles flying. Plates clattered, napkins fell. Chaos. "Oh shoot, I'm so clumsy," I gasped. Did I spill anything? In the flurry of distraction, I swapped my coffee with Miranda's. Quick, smooth, unnoticed. Miranda gave a tight smile. "Just try not to wreck anything in my study, okay?" I nodded and slipped down the hallway, my heart pounding in my chest. But I didn't go far. I stood just beyond the doorframe, watching, waiting. They say trust your gut, but what if your gut is screaming that someone close to you is slowly poisoning you? I didn't want to believe it, but my body never lied. 3 years into marriage with Ryan, and I'd landed in the ER more times than I could count. Nausea that lasted all night. Sudden rashes. One time, I even blacked out after brunch. And the common denominator? It always happened after eating at Miranda's house. At first, I thought maybe I had developed some weird allergy. I tried elimination diets. I went through every medical test my insurance would cover. Nothing concrete. Maybe it's stress, one doctor said. Maybe a virus or contaminated food. But in my gut, I knew it wasn't random. And it wasn't from takeout. Miranda was always nearby when I got sick, offering fake concern and suggesting harmless causes. Maybe the yogurt this morning was off, she'd said casually as I clutched my stomach on her couch. It tasted a little weird to me, too. Ryan always had excuses ready. "Maybe it was something you ate yesterday," he'd say while I was hooked up to an IV. "You're sensitive to stuff, babe." But I started noticing more. Like the way Miranda would go quiet when I walked into a room where she was whispering with Ryan. The way she looked at me, not like a sister-in-law, but like competition. So I started writing things down. Every stomach cramp, every dizzy spell, every time my throat felt tight. I logged the dates, the food, where it happened. After a few months, I looked at my notes and felt my blood run cold. Every symptom pointed back to one place, dining at Miranda's house. This wasn't coincidence anymore. It was a pattern. And if I didn't act soon, I might not walk away next time. One clumsy stumble, one quiet swap, and in less than a minute, someone's about to drink the truth. I knew I'd only get one shot. Ryan and Miranda were chatting with their cousin about an upcoming Florida trip. Everyone was relaxed, distracted. This was my window. I stood up, reaching for more waffles, then accidentally tripped on the edge of the table leg. The tray tilted, silverware clattered, a plate hit the floor with a loud crack. Miranda gasped, chairs scraped, everyone jumped to their feet. I staggered, grabbing the table to steady myself, but with my free hand, I swiftly swapped my coffee mug with Miranda's. No one noticed. No one questioned a thing. "Oh my gosh, I'm so clumsy," I muttered with a sheepish smile. "Sorry, Miranda. Hope I didn't get anything on you." She gave a tight nod, her lips pressed into a line. Just don't break anything in my study, all right? "I just need to make a quick call," I replied, already heading down the hall. But I wasn't making any calls. I slipped into her study, left the door cracked just enough, and watched the table from the shadows. Miranda lifted the mug, took a sip. I held my breath. The next few seconds could be the moment everything I feared, everything I documented was finally proven true. One wrong sip, one misplaced mug, and suddenly the truth wasn't hidden anymore. It was convulsing on the kitchen floor. I watched as Miranda took her first sip. The first few seconds, nothing. But then she paused. Her eyes widened. Her hand trembled as she tried to set the mug down, sloshing coffee onto the white linen tablecloth. Her face turned pale, ghostly pale. "Ryan," she gasped, her fingers twitching. "Something's wrong." Ryan turned. Confusion flickered across his face until his gaze landed on the coffee mug. His expression shattered. "No, no," he cried, stumbling backward. That wasn't your cup." The entire room went dead silent. I stepped out of Miranda's study, phone still in hand, camera rolling. Miranda tried to rise, but her knees buckled. Ryan rushed toward her, arms out, but it was too late. Her body convulsed violently before collapsing to the hardwood floor. "I'm calling 911, I said flatly, dialing with one hand while my other kept recording. She wasn't supposed to. It wasn't meant for her." Ryan stammered, his face drained of color. Miranda lifted her head slightly, locking eyes with me, and for the first time there was no smirk, no icy detachment, just fear. And that's when I knew. The mask was off. If the truth slips out in a whisper, make sure you're recording it. Because sometimes justice begins with a voice memo. I pressed 911, phone to my ear, but my thumb had already hit the record button seconds earlier. 911, what's your emergency? "We're at 1547 Barton Springs Road, Austin," I said quickly. "A woman is seizing after drinking coffee that may have been poisoned." As the dispatcher gave me instructions, I kept my eyes on Ryan and Miranda. She was trembling on the hardwood floor, her lips pale, forehead soaked with sweat. Ryan knelt beside her, pale and panicked. "Ryan?" she gasped, clutching at his sleeve. "You said it would just make her miss the presentation." I froze. Every word was being captured by my phone's mic, clear as day. "She kept pushing through," Miranda wheezed. "Even after the tea, even after the last time, she still showed up for the Henderson pitch." "You said they wouldn't trace it," Ryan muttered, his voice tight with fear. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but my phone was catching every syllable. Then, sirens, faint but growing louder outside. "Help me," Miranda whimpered, eyes glassy. I didn't want to kill her. We just wanted her to take a break. I stayed calm. No emotion, just truth. "Keep talking, Miranda," I said, lifting the phone slightly. "It's recording. You might want to get everything off your chest now." When pain strips away pride, confessions spill like poison, revealing just how far envy can rot a soul. Miranda trembled on the floor, her body now shifting from violent convulsions to weak, jerking tremors. Her face had lost all color, but her eyes met mine, not defiant, not smug, just desperate. You don't get it," she whispered, each word jagged with pain. "I built that client. I spent 3 years on them. Then you walk in and suddenly they want you, not me." My chest tightened. I'd always known there was tension, but I never imagined that jealousy could turn so literal and lethal. "The Henderson deal," she groaned, grabbing Ryan's wrist. "I pitched to them first, but then she got assigned as the lead." Ryan looked away, his jaw clenched, eyes fixed on the floor. "She took everything," Miranda hissed, tears slipping down her temples. "They called her fresh talent, and me, outdated, like I was disposable." I said nothing, not because I was stunned, but because every puzzle piece was finally snapping into place. "We didn't mean to kill you," she choked out. "Just slow you down long enough so I could show I still had what it takes." "By poisoning me?" I asked flatly, my voice like ice. Miranda didn't answer. Her eyes fluttered shut, whether from shame or exhaustion, I couldn't tell. But I knew one thing for sure. The truth was no longer buried. Sometimes evidence isn't just to prove a point. It's the only thing standing between you and silence. And hospitals don't just save lives. Sometimes they trigger justice. The ambulance doors slammed shut behind Miranda. I climbed into my car and followed, my phone still clenched like a weapon, proof of everything. At Austin General Hospital, the ER buzzed under harsh fluorescent lights. Nurses wheeled Miranda inside, her body limp, her breathing shallow. I didn't take my eyes off her. A silver-haired doctor with piercing eyes approached me. "Are you family?" "I'm her sister-in-law," I said, "and I have something you need to hear." I unlocked my phone, pulled up the audio file, and hit play. Miranda's voice filled the quiet hallway, shaky, faint, but crystal clear. "We just wanted her to miss the presentation." The doctor's expression changed instantly. "I need a copy of that recording," she said, her voice sharp. "Now, you've just handed us criminal evidence." She turned to a nurse. "Get security. Call the police." A uniformed officer and a female detective arrived minutes later. I handed over the audio and my medical records. 3 ER visits, 6 months apart, same symptoms. "This wasn't a coincidence," I told them. "Same pattern, always after eating at her house." The detective nodded slowly. "You did the right thing. Now it's our turn." I looked toward the trauma room doors, where Miranda was being kept alive by people she didn't deserve to be saved by. But I wasn't there for revenge. I was there for the truth. When jealousy turns scientific, it's no longer personal. It's procedural. And every drop is documented in ink. 2 days after the hospital incident, I got the call from Detective Carter. "We finished searching Ryan's office at Arrow Point Marketing," he said flatly. "You might want to come down to the station. There's something you need to see." In a small evidence room at the Austin Police Department, a sealed plastic bag sat on the table. Inside were 5 small vials labeled with clinical codes and a worn brown notebook filled with tight, neat handwriting. Detective Carter opened the notebook. "Look here," he said, pointing to a page. "April 12th, 3 drops in tea. Result, dizziness, fatigue, Miss Johnson pitch." My stomach twisted. Line after line, dates, symptoms, measured doses, detailed like a research journal. I wasn't just being poisoned, I was being studied, like a lab rat. "These compounds were traced back to a friend of Ryan's in pharmaceutical R&D, Carter added. "Not something you pick up at Walgreens." I felt sick. This wasn't rivalry. This wasn't sabotage. This was a systematic takedown. Planned, controlled, measured. "Is it enough?" I asked. "To prosecute?" He nodded slowly. "With the audio, your medical history, and this?" He tapped the bag of vials in the notebook. "This isn't suspicion anymore. This is organized poisoning, and it's criminal." Envy doesn't just want you to fall, it wants you gone. And when the truth finally comes out, you're no longer the victim. You're the witness who lived to tell the story. At the precinct, in a quiet interrogation room, Ryan sat with his head down, hands clasped tightly like a man saying a final prayer. Miranda lay on a temporary hospital cot in the corner, IV line in her arm. Detective Carter pressed play for the 3rd time. Miranda's recorded voice crackled through the speaker. "We just wanted her to take a break, so I could win the contract back." Finally, Ryan looked up. His voice was hoarse, but clear. No more excuses. "She was too good," he said. "Too perfect. No one at the firm even noticed me or Miranda anymore." I stood behind the one-way mirror, arms crossed, feeling a strange mix of cold anger and quiet resolution. "It started with just a few drops of something mild," Ryan continued. "But Olivia kept showing up, every meeting, every pitch. She wouldn't stop. So Miranda told me to increase the dosage." He gave a bitter laugh, and I agreed, because I was tired of standing behind her. My hands clenched at my sides, but I didn't look away. Miranda opened her eyes, turning slightly toward the camera. She took every spotlight. I just wanted her gone for a little while. I didn't think it would go that far. No one in the room responded. They didn't have to, because in that moment, they wrote their own confession. The truth doesn't need to scream. It just needs time, evidence, and a courtroom with enough light to expose every lie. Week 3, Courtroom 6, Travis County Courthouse, Austin, Texas. 3 weeks. Every day on the witness bench, I listened to pieces of my own story told through others. Medical examiners, toxicology experts, audio analysts, and the lead detective presenting Ryan's notebook like it was a criminal diary. There was a time I feared no one would believe me. But now, I could see it on the jurors' faces. Not doubt, but outrage. The defense tried their spin. This wasn't attempted murder. It was a tragic lapse in judgment, 2 people under pressure who cracked. But then the text lit up the courtroom screen. Ryan, need something stronger. She's still showing up. Miranda, no traceable symptoms. If Olivia catches on, it's over. Silence. Dr. Wren, the toxicologist, pointed to a chart. The dosage in her coffee that morning was 5 times the level known to cause permanent neurological damage. I glanced toward Miranda. Her once icy face was pale and defeated. Ryan never looked at me. Not once. He stared at the floor like it might offer a way out. The prosecutor ended with one sentence. This wasn't a mistake. It was a series of calculated choices. repeated, deliberate, and nearly fatal. Justice doesn't always feel like victory. Sometimes it's just the quiet permission to breathe again and finally move forward. Sentencing day. The courtroom was packed. Miranda and Ryan sat stiff and hollow, no pride left, no defense to give. The judge stared them down, voice unwavering. The evidence is overwhelming. Both defendants are found guilty of second-degree attempted murder and intentional poisoning. Given the sustained and deliberate nature of this crime, this court sentences you each to the maximum under Texas law. 25 years, no parole. The gavel dropped, a single echo that closed the door on a nightmare. I didn't cry. I didn't smile. I just took a breath, my first one in months that didn't taste like fear. Ryan hung his head. Miranda looked at me one last time, not with remorse, but the recognition of someone who knew she'd lost. For good. I walked out of the courthouse, the June sun warming my shoulders. It didn't feel like joy. It felt like freedom. I was no longer the victim. I was the survivor. And I had made the truth impossible to ignore, with nothing but my voice. Sometimes, the worst thing that happens to you leads to the best version of who you become, not because you never fell, but because you chose to rise. 1 year later, Dallas, Texas. I stood backstage, mic clipped to my blazer, peeking out at the packed ballroom of the National Business Leadership Conference. Across the jumbo screen behind me, the title read, Opening Keynote, Olivia Bennett, Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer, Phoenix Strategies. Once, someone tried to erase me from the room. Now I was the one opening the room. I stepped into the spotlight to thunderous applause, but I didn't feel pride. I felt clarity. I'm not standing here because I got lucky, I began, voice steady. I'm standing here because I survived, because I chose not to let fear define me. I told my story, no sugarcoating, the hospital visits, the poisoned coffee, the betrayal from people I once called family, and the decision to speak up even when no one wanted to listen. When I mentioned the Henderson account, the one Miranda tried so hard to steal, the room fell silent. Not because of the money, but because of what it meant. Because the real victory isn't about what you win, it's how you fought for it. How you walked back into the fire and built a life from the ashes. True success isn't about where you end up, it's about who you become on the way there, especially when the path is paved with betrayal. I looked out across the ballroom, hundreds of eyes locked on mine, and I knew this last part. This wasn't about the contract, or the title, or even the courtroom win. It was about truth. I used to think talent was everything, I began, until I realized resilience is what kept me standing. I let the silence hang, solid and steady. Success isn't just about skill. It's about integrity, even when no one around you is holding on to theirs. It's about listening to your gut, especially when it leads you to the most painful truth, that the ones who hurt you were once the ones who promised to protect you. Another pause. And most of all, success is about refusing to back down, even if that means standing up to your own family. The applause was thunderous, but I didn't smile, I simply nodded, because I knew I had survived, I had fought, and I had won, not with vengeance, but with truth.